And now I'm recording again. You are go for the next.
Okay. Well, we've been talking about corn markets and in particular corn exports. Let's shift over into probably one of the most surprising positive issues right now in agriculture in Kansas, and that's that grain sorghum exports have re-engaged with China, and it's because of China's need. They have given it's, and that's a surprise in itself, given their supply demand situation and all the stocks they had of feed grains. So now suddenly they've come to the place where they're in need. And when you see weekly export shipments for the week ending April the 2nd, it's pretty paltry sum. But grain sorghum exports have been bouncing around. A week ago it was about 10 million bushels, and now it's 0.3. I think literally it's how the ships are lined up and which weeks that we can bring enough supplies together to fill cargoes. And I'm going to have a little bit more to say on that. So this total sales, well, see the green and the blue lines there. In 1 week, total shipments jumped to 10 million bushels, from 46 to 56. And about 2 weeks ago, forward purchases jumped 20 million bushels. So we were basically at 80, 90 million bushels of sales, and now we've jumped up there. So grain sorghum started so slowly, it was hard. You wonder if it's ever going to catch up, and now we got some momentum. I don't think you can trust on that forever, but if you're in the grain sorghum business or an association, it's something that you're sure welcoming. Talk about sorghum markets a little bit more. Sorghum, when it comes to sorghum, its ethanol usage is as much at risk as for corn. And when you see this supply demand balance sheets, the USDA chopped back basically ethanol usage for sorghum by 25%, 25 million bushels. Planting prospects, 5.825 million acres planted, up from about 5.3 in 2019, 5.7 in 2018. I don't know. You want to not just lose your bearings, but if grain sorghum's starting to look a little bit better, and corn's been suffering so much, it would not be that much of a surprise to see, at least in these states where people are used to growing grain sorghum, that on non-irrigated cropland, that suddenly now grain sorghum is more of a competitive option to consider relative to corn. So we'll see what happens there. Key sorghum export prospects. Again, recent Chinese buying interest increased in forward purchases. When you look at sorghum basis at grain terminals, it has increased sharply. I'll show you a chart here in a minute. And so the USDA's last projection for sorghum for next marketing year, for the 2000, the one starting September, is basically $3. And so my thoughts are, given the way that if exports continue, it's probably more of an even bet with corn. So if corn's at 335, 340, and you have strong exports for grain sorghum, that's probably where grain sorghum would end up too. In my thought anyway. Here's a supply demand balance sheet for sorghum. I pulled this right straight out of the WASDE report. You can see some of the quick changes they made for feed residual for this current marketing year we're in, the one ending August 31st, dropped feed residual use by 25 million, dropped ethanol usage by 50 million. Is that, no, I get my, yeah, excuse me, by 25 million also. Yeah, total of 50 with two of them. Dropped both of those, raised sorghum exports by 50 million. So this is, even with all that, you get to 185, and note they're still less than they were in 2017-18 before all this happened, when they were at 200 million bushels. So we'll see where it all goes heading on down the road. I think the confirming evidence on interest in sorghum is to see these basis levels at key terminal elevators around Kansas, and this is not an uncommon chart occurrence for basis. I mean, you wouldn't see local elevators displaying that much strength in basis levels if there wasn't some demand pull out there that they were seeking to fulfill. So this to me is evidence of strong interest in exports of grain sorghum, because literally in our system at the export terminals, they're bidding up to try to gather whatever supplies they can get. Okay, Alicia, before we start into wheat, that's the end of what I have for grain sorghum.
Okay, and we'll pause for a second for any questions, but so far we have no questions in the chat. Once again, if you do have a question, feel free to just put it in the chat and we will get to it when we pause. Okay, I'm going to stop this recording.